Good evening. You're listening live to the Xtreme Movie Show. I'm your host, Rob, alongside RDV from the Great Midwest. I have Shock G with me. Also, he's the young 20-something you guys may know as Professor Pixel. He did a song in the 90s that allowed him to be financially independent. And join me here live for the very first time in our 1981 reviews in the Pinos Palace with the Xtreme Studios here just west of the Pine, Orlando, Florida. God damn it, guys. Shock G still got me triggered. Anyway, tonight, guys, we're continuing what we did last week, which something we've been wanting to do here for a while. It's revisit some old material, and so we're doing not the best 10 films of 1981, but 10 significant ones that came up to us that we kind of compiled that we wanted to talk about. Such a good year of films. A lot of them kind of talk about it too, and we're going to go in chronological order. It means when they were released, not necessarily the one that had the best awards ratios and all that stupid shit in sales. We just don't give a shit. We're here to talk films, have a good time. RDV, please get us started.
Well, quickly before we get to our top 10, I'm going to show some nominees that could have went on there. So right away, Night School, great movie. You should check it out if you haven't done so.
Reviewed here on the Xtreme Movie Show. Rachel Ward, Hubba Hubba.
This is her debut on screen, Rachel Ward.
Yep.
All right. And then we have Enter the Ninja, another great movie.
This, ladies and gentlemen, is the second greatest ninja movie of all time because its sequel is actually better, which is covered with show we here on the Xtreme Movie Show with Sho Kosugi. What a great film this is!
All right, our next one. How could you not have
again? I mean, come on, Burt
Reynolds. Yes, Sharky's Machine.
Gator on steroids.
And then actually another one. This has actually been covered also on the Xtreme Movie Show as well.
What a fantastic! This is Roger. People like to joke about Roger Moore and Roger Tainment because he's a goof compared to Sean Connery, and that's the big comparison at this time. I will tell you that For Your Eyes Only, because of how wonderfully goofy Moonraker is, which is a personal favorite of mine. This one is a back to basics kind of Bond where he's very brutal and very stiff. It's actually one of my shortlist favorites because it's such a great watch, and he shows you can be a tough piece of shit in here too. He is great film, one of the best Bond women of all time.
Our next one is
if you go ahead and look back at that old review, there is a new thumbnail on it, right, Pinkman?
Yes. So we revamped the thumbnails. Also,
I'm back.
Also, when you go to our homepage, we actually put the times we stream on there, so now you know when we're live or when to avoid us. You know that too. All right. I felt bad for not having a Chuck Norris movie on the list, but I guarantee you, as we go through the years, he will make it into the top 10 multiple times.
You cannot stop Chuck Norris. You can only hope to contain him.
All right.
No, you can't. You can't.
And just like Pixel, he wants to escape, just like Kurt Russell escaped New York. 1997. Wow, that's honestly, I would not picture 1997. I thought 97 was probably nicer in New York compared to today.
Honestly. Yeah, it was actually because in the 90s it got cleaned up, but at the time when this movie was made, it was a big time shithole. So it took another decade before it started getting cleaned up. Now it's back to where it was and then some.
All right. Then we got The Great Muppet Caper because if you're a fan of the Muppets, this is a fun movie.
It is good.
It's cute. It's a fantastic movie.
All right, and then of course Mel Brooks. I don't even have to describe this movie at all. Just watch the movie and you'll either be triggered or you'll have fun.
I want to show something off. Give me a second. Does he have it plugged in? I hope not. You might. Dang it.
What are you doing? We're in the middle of a live stream. You bum.
So
just continue.
My brother got a lamp, and it has a skull on it, and it's imprinted with History of the World Part 1, and it has the poster all in it. It's very cool.
You mean a bong?
No. And of course, always Clash of the Titans.
This is a great fantasy film. Could have easily made the list.
But our first movie on the list tonight came out on February 11th. That is My Bloody Valentine. Probably the best ending soundtrack I've ever seen in a movie.
Because it has a fantastic freaking song that you don't expect. It just shows up and it's like, fuck. What? Like the movie itself is okay. But that song at the end that goes out of what? Why?
Right?
Why for this? Why'd you pull out all the stops? Okay.
I still haven't seen the reboot. I know I think probably Jensen Ackles in it, or who is it?
That's the remake, bro. This is off the rails. Come on,
No. I said,
focus.
I'm saying I said I still haven't seen that one. But I said
Yeah.
I watched this one, and I really don't like watching remakes of movies because a lot of times they don't capture what the original movie had. But very few movies where they actually get a remake and it's better than the original. So, all right. Anything else to say about this?
It's better than you think it would be.
Okay.
Again, we're not doing the best of the best. We're doing just different ones, and part of it too is not all three of us have seen all of the movies that we're talking about. So the way we actually compile the list, because I know that that's a very interesting way about it. It's there's not a hard and true fast kind of metric for it. We're not saying, hey, everybody gets a vote, and if it's top 10 it gets a point, and we add them and average it and do all this. That's not what we do. That's somebody else's old stream. That's not what we do. So
I'm
just
just
picking out 10, and Mighty Bloody Valentine is actually an above average film for what it is at that time, so we wanted to include one like
you
that
should
in it.
watch this on Valentine's with your sweetheart. I'm just going to say it's a
And
great
you just play that song on repeat.
right. I'd blast that song in my car if I had the song. All right, going to our number 2 movie of the week. Next to the list, it came out March 27th. This is Thief. This is the one that started it all. This is what started Miami Vice. Without this movie, there would be no Miami Vice today. Michael Mann, his just brilliant this camera takes on here too. James Caan or Can, whatever, or Kane, whatever you prefer. I don't care. You've heard it 3 ways.
JC.
Yeah, JC.
Yo, it's Jesus Christ to the rescue. Sorry.
All I know is that he was a thief and he stole my heart in this movie. Another Valentine's movie you can watch if you want to.
Yeah, now Pixel, have you seen this movie?
No, I have not.
This is a movie that it's honestly, all kidding aside, I think it's James Caan's best performance. And I always talk about the diner scene where he's telling the woman like how it is and what his dream is. It's a very powerful piece. It's really the anchor of the whole movie. It explains everything.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time when we reviewed it, I think it was fairly new to you, RD. I know you're interested in checking out Miami Vice. I said, man, this guy's done a lot of good stuff. And so you kind of almost unintentionally, I think, went in order by seeing Thief, seeing how it was shot with the natural light and everything, got into Miami Vice. And now you're like creaming your pants because it's so good. This movie is legitimate great, and people don't want to talk about it. It's phenomenal.
The reason I want to see it is it's James.
Are you saying that if I go to see this movie, I won't be in misery?
Misery is nothing compared to Thief. It's not. I'm dead serious. People love Misery because they think it's cute. It's Stephen King, and he gets his
It's a
ankle
miserable
bashed.
movie.
It's bullshit. This is the movie. Out of James Caan movie, you take this one. You don't take Misery. Screw that.
We were looking. I was last year looking for a movie to review, and this was a movie that I saw this poster here. I'm like, what the hell? Like the tagline tonight, his take home is $110,000 tax free. And it's James Caan or James Cain or whatever. Willie Nelson's in this, of all things. And then so we saw him in was it Rio Bravo or Rio Grande? I remember we reviewed a John Wayne movie, and he was in there too. He was the guy with the knife.
Yep.
So I wanted to see more of this guy. So I've seen him in Elf, but I've never seen him like in a serious role like this. So he says Michael Mann. And I'd never seen I'd never seen Miami Vice, so we watched this, and here I was watching. He's like, Rob's right. The same kind of camera angle is going to this and too. And this is just a bittersweet story. And like I said, he takes it, and I think even the guy he takes out at the end is actually a guy who shows up later in Miami Vice as one of the mobsters.
Right. The
guy with the mustache. I forget his name is offhand, but I think it's Robert. Is it Robert Prosky? Is it this?
Something like that. Yeah, and I think he does show up in Vice.
Yeah.
You're bringing up a really good point because I've talked about before with the '80s as the anchor for the Xtreme movie show here, because that's my decade of growing up and seeing a lot of films. Is that you had this kind of everybody, whether you liked it or not, believed in it or not, here in the United States in the '80s, there was a sense of optimism that started to grow in the early '80s. People wanted to go and have fun and enjoy stuff. So there was this almost like Pollyanna is kind of like, we can do anything because we're America, damn it, and it's the '80s, and we're going to have fun. And that's cool. But it overshadows some some of the more serious type adult films like Thief is, because bittersweet's a good way to say it. You know, you pay a price for what you want, and that's the lesson as an adult. And you understand it and you accept it. James Caan, like I say, just nails it in here. It's not even close.
Tuesday Weld is freaking hot in this movie.
Yeah. That review's here on the Xtreme Show, guys. I think we did it last year, so check that out. Really good. Pixel, that's why we do this too. So you young 20-somethings can, decide, hey, that sounds interesting. Maybe I'll check that out.
All right. Nothing more to say about this movie. Let's go to our third movie, which came out in April 4th. That is Nighthawks.
Hey, yo. Who doesn't love a good Rutger Hauer film? Oh, wait, Stallone's in it too. Damn it. It's like you're getting twice as good for just, the same amount of money, right?
And it's the only time I ever see Stallone in the dress. It's so dumb. I was going to say Nightlife Kid. Like,
disappointing. I wanted to see more.
What? I hope so.
Do you guys want to hear a conspiracy theory? I'm glad you asked. There's this idea out there in Hollywood that when you're an up-and-comer, what they want to do to humiliate you is put you in a dress. Just saying, before everybody gets big, they, seem to do that. So I'm not saying that's the case with Stallone, but it's just one of those things, because you see that and you're like, the last person you want to see doing any sort of stuff like that is somebody like him.
Yeah, because someone's going around whacking like prostitutes and all that stuff, and this girl. And so basically, you see the hot blonde. And obviously, and then all of a sudden you see this broad shoulder Stallone taking this wig off. It's like totally switched people. There's no way. But Rutger Hauer is a crazy guy. I think he kidnaps the mayor, wasn't it? Or I forget what he was. A politician, at least, And then chucks the body from the helicopter.
Or as Eric Breen would say,
no, not a helicopter. They were on a trolley, weren't they? That's what it was. A sky lift. Anyway, very fun movie. Your first buddy cop movie, I'd say, for cops.
That's an interesting thought.
Yeah.
I never really considered that seriously.
Before Lethal Weapon.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. I mean, Stallone is a badass in this. It's not your typical Stallone movie, too. Which is really weird. It's like it's not a comedy. It's more serious.
In a dress.
Pixel. Just because you want to wear a dress on camera and we won't let you, quit your bitching.
I wanted to wear a top hat, but then you called me Dalton, and I was like, "No, I'm not." What?
No. I said Dalton has a better hat. All right. Our number 4 movie is basically a title that what Pixel's been doing all night, Hauling. Yes.
And it's not 1982, so we can't talk about Porky's.
This is April 10th.
Yep.
About a week later, and yeah, dude. This was another first watch for me last year during Halloween. Go check it out. And werewolves, peep shows, news reporter. A bunch of a community of werewolves. It's like an M. Night Shyamalan movie.
Well, it's the year. This is the year of the ninja, which everybody, I'm letting everybody know. Of course, that's how it blew up, right? It's also the year of the werewolf, because not only do you have the Howling, you've got Wolfen and was an American Werewolf in London. I think all here in the same year. And the Howling does have a different take on it, rather than just being a, stupid little monster movie. They tied into the. Now, I don't want to say counterculture here, but as we talked about in season 1, episodes 25 and 26, just offline here, that we'll be dropping later in the week, Professor Pixel and I were talking about how there was 2 episodes where it's a sugar cube of LSD with a microchip in it that they have to get off of a guy in jail. They didn't go deep and dark into it, but in the episode previous, they definitely went deep and dark by torturing somebody. And we talked a bit about the counterculture and how that was, kind of at the time something that went on. Now, Howling did it by the kind of free love out of the 60s and really the 70s and all that, where you had these communities where people kind of go off to the side. And I thought it was kind of interesting, because one of the more interesting types of films that you would get in the 80s and die in the 90s was the erotic thriller. Brian De Palma, and we've done 1 or 2 of those films. Andrew Stevens ring a name for you older guys, and a lot of them. But the Howling's got that, so you're watching this going, okay, it's supposed to be about this kind of monster, but you're seeing all the psycho kind of stuff and sexuality, and you're like, wait a minute, so you're not going to get it unless you're an adult. It's going to seem boring and dumb, but it's different. It really is a different approach. Just like when we talked about Wolfen with Albert Finney, that really wasn't a wolf movie. It was about society and other things that were going on. So kind of smart, which sometimes a lot of people didn't like in the 80s when it came to these types of movies.
Hashtag justice for Gregory Hines.
Just
all right.
Could have been a buddy cop. Started the buddy cop movie with Nighthawks. This could have been one where the good black guy gets it first, and you're like, why? Why does he have to be a red shirt?
But yes, this is a she-wolf movie. Basically, and you see this guy is basically he's this woman's husband gets seduced by him. They have sex by the fire, and it's just like this crazy stuff out there. There's also a werewolf serial killer going around.
Damn those Californians.
I mean, we see a werewolf cop as well. I mean, there's a shotgun to the head. There's a lot of cool stuff in here.
It's a very good looking film, would you say?
Very good with props.
Yeah.
So if you love movies that use sound stages and props, like it's just your last ones to watch.
I don't know that there's been a singularly better wolf movie, and these three are very strong out of this year. I mean, and Howling's not bad, but some people think it's the worst of the three, really, and that's still pretty damn good, right? I mean,
yep. And now a movie that Pixel can talk about, which came out the same week. It is Excalibur.
Yes.
And we're moving on.
I hadn't seen this movie until Rob and I did a review of it.
I blame Rob.
Last year.
I'm the bad guy.
And,
hey, Chico.
You may be the bad guy, but you're a hero to me because this is a fantastic film. Fantastic.
I believe the audience would agree as well, sir.
Yeah, I mean, if you love anything Arthurian, then this is it.
Let me ask you a serious question here, Pixel. Mm-hmm. I'll save the goofy ones for later. This is a long-ass film. A lot of people can say it's dull and it's boring, which I don't get. But RDV, even you sometimes, want a little bit more pacing, even though you can take a longer film. Can you watch a movie this long without it, like, making you go crazy, do a lack of attention span at your young age? Just the way society is these days, with social media and all that. People usually just can't sit down and watch. They have to have this constant cutting and going on and all that. I'm surprised you would say that, like you're able to sit down and get through it.
Because I am. I did.
But I
did it for Dune, too.
A lot of people said that about Dune as well, right? God, when is something going to happen? Why is it taking so long?
The one I like is the Liam Neeson movie with the Green Knight.
Yeah. All Arthurian and all in the public domain, sir.
Yes. Excalibur to me is like, me personally, and I know Pixel gushes over this movie. I like King Arthur. I just don't like hearing the whole part. Let's focus on Sir Lancelot betraying him, getting on with his girlfriend. It's like, can't we just have stories where they're fighting against Morgan or something like that? But no, let's do the part where they have the booty call.
You have to,
because it's not. It's part of his life. That's what it is. It's an epic that goes over.
That Lancelot should die at the end. Every single movie, just cut his head off. He should be gutted, take his balls off, shove in his mouth.
Here's something we did not actually talk about. I don't recall when we did Excalibur, but thinking about it now, it could be something later in the year we do Excalibur versus the first Lord of the Rings movie. Now everyone loves the Lord of the Rings movies. I think Excalibur singularly is a better film.
I mean, we could also do a movie where they feature they just do running all the time too. We have running versus walking.
Hey, Cartoon Comic Studio.
I'm not sitting through The Flash again, Bankman.
It'd only take a hot second.
Right. Anything else on Excalibur?
Like I said, this is just a fantastic fantasy film. It's like the most classic term for fantasy because it's just King Arthur, that legend, everything around it. We wouldn't have so many stories now without it, and this just captures it beautifully. Next.
All right. Quick shout out to Verity. What's up? I haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna skip a month here. We're gonna go to June 12th, and we're gonna go to Raiders of the Lost Ark. Not Indiana Jones, not that bullshit. It's called Raiders, because that's what it is. Just like it's not called Star Wars. It's called A New Hope. Obviously a very fun movie. Some would argue this is probably the best movie of the year. Without even looking, I can't remember if it was on Wikipedia, if it was number one. I'm sure it probably was. But holy crap. Harrison Ford just went from Star Wars, or sorry, A New Hope, onto Raiders of the Lost Ark, and it just proved that this guy is better as Indiana Jones than he is as Han Solo. He can carry a movie by himself. He doesn't need all the other nonsense like the Force and all that stuff. His only kryptonite is snakes, just like most of us.
So
and John Rhys Davies too. Like I said, it's Karen Allen. We got Nazis. We got the Ark of the Covenant. All history stuff. And I honestly, I always think of Alan Quartermain or Romance of the Stone, which came out later. These are just fun movies in general. Just being an archaeologist, going adventures. It's a wonder that every single kid in America, when this came out, was just in love with this, because it is just the epic fantasy adventure. Before this, you had Pitfall.
This movie, we talked about it, a while ago as far as debating, and this is a gold standard. This is the standard. This is what you compare any other, to me, adventure type movie to it. I don't care how great graphics are these days and what you can do with digital effects and different IP and stuff like that. All this is just a nice derivative film of all these little concepts from 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever you want to call it. And that's no way negatory. And you're absolutely right. Harrison doesn't need everybody. We've talked briefly, Pixel and I, about with Mission Impossible, there's 4 characters basically in season 1 of the original TV show, but some of them don't show up in some of the episodes for whatever reasons. So you get this interesting dynamic of, well, do we have 2 people? Do we have 3? Do we have 4? Do we have 1? And in it, it can make for some interesting situations, but nobody really seems to be relevant except for the one main guy who does everything, as I like to say. And here, you're right. If you don't need all these other characters, if you can cut them out, get rid of them. You can't have Arthur in Excalibur if you don't have Lancelot. And as much as you may not like what goes on in being betrayal and being a bastard, you have to have him. You could argue about whether or not they wanted to include some of the other characters involved in the death of Arthur and all that, because it's very extensive. But in Raiders, you just need him. You don't really need, was it Marion? I mean, it's nice that she's in it, but I mean, really, it's about him. The only thing that really, I think, added to it, and again, we go into the third film, is when they get Sean Connery in it as his dad and they flesh out the characters a little bit. Fantastic. I mean, you're right. I mean, there's almost nothing negative you can say about this film. It's that damn good. And it still is after all these decades and all these watchings. Phenomenal film.
Like I said, the soundtrack was great too. I mean, and everything about this movie, I can't consider anything bad about this movie whatsoever.
I don't know people's ages, and I typically don't ask listening here because we've got a worldwide audience, yeah. and we definitely have a noticeable female contingent as well. I just wonder if people around my age who saw this, or they saw it, let's say when they're a teenager, mm-hmm. if somebody could tell you then, I've seen one of the best action movies I'll ever see in my life. Yeah, oh, come on, it's 1981. Sure, in the next few decades, there's going to be a couple good ones, a couple handful. I'm looking at this going, man, what's even a close second? And that's something we'll debate later on, but it's that good of a movie that makes you wonder how big it is. It's like Will Chamberlain versus the rest of the NBA. There's just no comparison. And I don't care what anybody says about anybody current or former. It's just that big of a difference. And I'm looking at this film going, man, you're right. We watched it again. We talked about it, and we really tried finding something that might be able to like have a puncher's chance against it. No, it's just not. It's unstoppable, really.
All right, Pixel.
I love this movie, and I don't know why it gets called in Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark. It helps it helps bring things in line.
Doesn't need it.
Because the other 2 movies are great too. Like 2's not as good, but 3 is. but this movie is it's just utterly fantastic, completely. What was the one thing, the Big Bang Theory, I think it was, they had the one thing because everybody loved it, but somebody said, well, it was a fine movie to one of the characters, except they said that Indiana Jones was inconsequential to all the events. They would have all happened without him, which I would still struggle to think about to this day.
I also want to give out to him the killing Dr. Octopus for the first 10 minutes of the movie.
Alfred Molina.
But that's great. This whole thing, Rob, you've been to Disney. When we had the Great Movie Ride, one of my favorite rooms in there was the Indiana Jones room, where they're trying to lift the ark, but there's snakes all around and you can see up there. It was fantastic. This film captures a feeling of adventure that you can't find really anywhere else. They've even tried to recreate it in the 2000s. It hasn't worked, but it's truly something special.
Yeah,
I think all three movies are special. But
the thing that worked for me
is the best.
The thing that worked for me the most is the Ark of Covenant. Is I believe it's real. We just don't know where it is. I mean, some people claim they have it. It's in Jerusalem. They believe they have it. But yeah, just the whole concept of bringing something like that's it's been debated. Well, was it real? Or the whole religion thing, or was it fake? But just the whole concept. When you see the guys, for those who read the Bible and stuff, you're not supposed to touch it. You'll die instantly. That's why they have the poles that they carry it, and only certain people can carry it. The thing, the ark. It was just it's just so cool how they paid attention to the detail when they did this movie like that. So you see the guy's face melt at the end. It's like, oh my gosh! It's effect. Like you're not expecting that, but that's the special effects.
Yeah,
it was just so great. And then the whole thing with Marion, she basically she's giving him crap, and then he's like, he's here to save you. He's like, you know what? I can't save you right now. I gotta leave. The jokes are hilarious there. We also get to see R2D2 and C3PO on the
little,
just everything. Now you said something about Temple of Doom not being as great as this. I don't know. Hang on, lady, let's go for a ride. I love it. I love Shotgun, or whatever his name is.
Short round.
Sorry, Shotgun, short round. They're saying to me.
I'm going to see him at MegaCon next week.
Yeah, great guy.
Why?
Because he's awesome.
Because he's awesome.
This movie does not exist, Dr. Jones.
No. All right.
He's great. He's in so many other movies. But now he is.
All right. Anything else?
No. You guys know how great it is. You don't need us to tell you that.
Yes. All right. Our next movie, we're going to go to June 26th. And I just want to say, this is just another fun movie I like. This is Stripes.
Now, this was the one movie I said we should take off and put something else on.
Oh, I love it.
So go ahead.
Stripes, Harold Ramis, and we get to have Bill Murray, John Candy, all on the same team. And I'm trying to remember I think the guy who plays the sergeant in here. They're I think it's the guy from Police Academy.
We've seen him in a couple of things. It's not him, though, I don't think.
But it said this is I always thought it was kind of cool because I know Harold Ramis from Ghostbusters, so getting to see him outside of this, see him teaching people how to basically speak English. These are people who are immigration thing. He's obviously one of the teachers, and I just love the humor in this, the subtleness. Bill Murray is a taxi cab driver who just hates his job. His girlfriend ends up leaving him. He gets so pissed at the lady in the cab, which she's so obnoxious. He just gets out. He's like, I'm done, quit. Leaves his cab in the middle of the bridge and walks away. And she's like, excuse me. He's like, sorry, Karen, I'm done.
If you've never quit a job, on the job and just walked out, you haven't lived.
Oh, man. So they get an idea. Like, they see this recording stuff, and they're like, wait, we can get paid for this in the army? It's like, this would be a piece of cake. They enlist. You got John Candy in there. The guy who plays Dan on Night Court. If I go to John Larroquette, is in here, please? Is it? And they get the two girls in here too as well. I forgot what their names are offhand. But yes, and like I said, it's just a fun movie. Bill Murray had that natural swag, the natural charisma that he pulls it through the whole entire film. Harold Ramis, yeah, it shows that proves that he can hang with Bill Murray. Outside, because you see him, he's kind of a stiff as Egon, but I mean, like, Egon's got a huge following though for being doing the subtlest comedy in the Ghostbusters. But Harold Ramis is a very intellectual, or at least was a very good, talented actor. And like I said, anytime I get to see him doing a role outside of Egon, because everybody knows he was typecast as Egon.
Yep.
After that, there's no way going past it. He's gonna be the guy. You want a Crunch Bar? I'm pretty sure he got it all the time from his son and his friends. Twinkie, it's like. So like I said, it was just fun going through this. They end up sneaking into what was it? Was it Russia or Germany? I forgot what the RV. And the whole joke of going through the border because they have the guards there, and it's sad that there was that they actually have more security. That's what this movie taught me. There's more security at other countries' borders than there is at ours. But overall, it's a fun movie, and if you haven't checked it out, you need to check it out. It's a lot of laughs.
It's fun.
That Bill Murray is just primarily an actor, and while you like him and you like the chemistry he has in there, you look at Harold Ramis and you go, "Oh, he's no Bill Murray." It's like, well, no, he's not, because he also like writes and gets involved in stories and all sorts of stuff. So he's I don't want to turn it into a conversation of who's more valuable, because I don't know that that's the right question. But you definitely get to see Bill Murray early on, and at this stage here, he's just blowing up big time. And we've talked about a few ourselves here on the Xtreme Movie Show. But Harold Ramis, to your point, being typecast, we don't seem to recognize that he might be that guy that's just in a few of these films, or the stiff or whatever, which you need to have. But he's done a lot of other stuff there as well too. So it is interesting to see these guys younger in their career as they're developing, and then knowing what they're going to turn into, right? The different paths they're going to go and stuff. Exactly. So that is cool to me.
John Candy also does mud wrestling against two girls. A little hilarious. Pixel, I hope you've seen this movie at least.
Yeah, I've seen this movie.
Okay.
It's fun. It is a funny movie. We probably should have replaced it with Clash of the Titans because Clash of the Titans has a little more meat on the bones, culturally speaking, I feel, than Stripes. Just because.
Well,
don't play D&D, you nerd.
I'm trying. I'm trying.
It's a movie about picking up chicks, and going to join the army, and you're like, I want to watch about a guy with a sword going against a Cyclops. Claymation.
I've actually never seen Clash of the Titans, but I just feel there's a difference between the two.
Well,
I've never seen it, but
but there's a difference when you go ahead and I've heard so much about Clash of the Titans. Stripes, I only heard of last year when I watched it.
You're also way younger, and these movies aren't really played on TV anymore.
But that's what I said. Culturally speaking, Clash of the Titans has a little more meat on its bone.
I'm sorry, that today's culture where you live sucks.
No, Florida's awesome. Let's just be straight up.
Florida in the 80s or Florida today?
Florida, period.
Florida, fuck yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah. Florida man. That's how I think of it.
Well, again, a lot of people are not going to know Stripes. I think that's a very valid point. It is a funny movie, and this, as we talked about before with Nighthawks on a more serious tone, that being a buddy cop kind of thing, more serious film. Obviously, Lethal Weapon, is the standard people go to in the 80s when they think of fun buddy cop kind of movies. Well, there's ones before it, like Stripes, and Stripes is a good one. It's about showing guys that are kind of underachievers and all that, just trying to get by and have fun, which you definitely got with a Canadian group of people that included John Candy, him, and a few others, and the early Saturday Night Live group that was really talented, that had Chevy Chase in it, and Dan Aykroyd, and a few others. And if you think about it, the fact that those guys are still going strong, especially the new upcoming Ghostbusters movie, I think that's a sad reflection on today's current lack of people that are just happen to be funny. And again, like I said before, with the Harrison Ford, if you were young when you saw that, and you saw it at the theaters or drive-in or wherever you saw it, or even on VHS, you go, man, I'm looking forward to seeing some great action movies like this one. And 30, 40 years goes by, and you're like, well, fuck it, it's still number one on my list when it comes to action. Stripes is not a bad film. Is it forgettable and that it's not deep? Sure, but you know what? There's still a bunch of these kind of films that are really funny. Like we said, Caddyshack, History of the World. I mean, but a bunch of them you're going to be like, yeah, I haven't heard of the Stripes, but you watch, you're like, yeah, okay, that is funny, and it's got these people in it, so it's definitely a good film. It's definitely a product of its time. But again, is there a movie like that today that's really funny or got some of these things in them? No, they're all preachy and messagey and make you want to change your channel. This one is just, it's like Beavis and Butthead before that idea came up.
Stripes, like I said, used to be in Comedy Central all the time. It aired, and all of a sudden Comedy Central went the way of the, I guess, MTV, and just went to being nothing but comedy, or everything but comedy. Sorry.
Yep.
And like I said, Pixel, you said nobody talks about this. Well, maybe that's the reason why we brought it on the list. There's people would talk about it, so people can actually go check out this movie. Instead of talking about a movie, that people already talked about.
We did a top 10.
We're bringing it back. We're bringing back culture.
We did a top 10 to talk about, like, overall, not our top 10 specifically, but just things that go ahead and have an impact.
People want to know when it comes to our list here. We each pull in like our ideas in here, and then we try to eliminate and get down to 10. And sometimes that's hard. Like this week, there's at least 20 films I could have put on this
easily.
Yeah.
We should have put Escape to New York on this list too, but I forgot. Yeah, I haven't seen that either. I need to. God,
I'm only putting films on that I've seen because there's plenty in the 80s that I haven't, and so that's the big thing. So
that's what I did too. That's why Stripes was on my, like, I put down 4 or 5, and Stripes was one of those movies I listed because
these next 2 movies coming up, so you need to watch them if you haven't already done so. So moving on to our number 8 of the week. This came out on July 24th. And get ready to be mad, Ronnie. It's another horror movie. It's Wolfen with Albert Finney. They can hear a cloud pass overhead, the rhythm of your blood. They can track you by yesterday's shadow. They can tear the scream from your throats. There is
never
no
seen it.
Yeah, and you should watch this. But you should also go check out our review of this. Help boost it up a little bit. I even, this is another movie that I updated the thumbnail for. So
do your part.
Yes. James Edward Olmos is in here, or is it Edward James?
Edward James.
James Edward Olmos. Sorry.
As I was saying, that actor is also known from Miami Vice. He plays the lieutenant in there, real quiet kind of guy. In this movie, he's a Native American that gets high on drugs and takes his clothes off, runs on the beach, and starts to act like a wolf, going, "Oh, really weird." Did not expect that, but honestly though, there's some really great scenes in here because the guy works his day job. He works on the bridge, and they're on top. I think they're on the Brooklyn Bridge. I think they're on, but he goes to the very top part of there, and so Albert Finney, playing a cop, has to go up there and talk to him. So he climbs up and they're wearing the thing. And you just get that creepy vibe because all we know is people are getting taken out. We don't know what's killing them or what. Obviously, the title, we think, it's a wolf. It's going to be a werewolf, with the full moon. And it's just great seeing just the shots they have this movie. Albert Finney, also in the movie Looker, which came out the same year.
Another film.
Yes. He's not your average cop. He's kind of like Eric Breen if Eric Breen was a cop to me. Honestly, I mean, what was it back in the 90s? I guess or late 80s when Eric was still in his drinking phase. But this guy was.
So he's Irish.
He's definitely Irish.
Bagora.
Yes. But he's basically 2 high political figures. I guess you call them, they'd be the equivalent of the Rockefellers, get murdered in the park, and along with their bodyguard who gets his hand ripped off. And he goes to fight a gun, and you see it there, and it's like It's like, what the heck? It was so really cool. The prop.
Very good use of a severed hand.
Oh my gosh. So and he's like they're trying to keep it hush hush, and they bring him on. Well, he's been on suspension. They bring him on along with a psychiatrist, or psychologist, and those two actually end up knocking boots in the movie because that's what you did back then.
Yeah.
There was no
Have sex, get out of the way, continue with the movie.
Yeah,
Smoke a cigarette, and when you wake up in the morning,
Yeah.
give one of y'all give the other person a cigarette and or a cup of coffee. And say
The
good
great thing is they're going into like these really downtown parts of New York where it's just like abandoned buildings or their buildings are just like falling apart, crumbled. They're knocking them down, and there's a church tower there, like an old church, and you get to see Predator vision. This is before Predator. There was this. This is the Predator vision, and everybody talks about. And I first learned about that last year, and oh my gosh, it is just awesome because you don't know what's killing them. We assume it's a wolf. We assume it's a werewolf, at least that much, But you see the Predator vision in the stalking person. You see people get pulled apart or pulled into there's this guy by like a pile of debris. He's pulled into it, and the poor bum, man. Like he's just in there. He's like, he just does he see something? Hey, what's up there? And he just gets throat slash. Gregory Hines coming here. Him and Albert Finney. They realize that something's going on in the church. It must be something over there at church, and because they hear a baby crying, which is really weird. But apparently, wolves can mimic cries, which is disturbing. Well,
that's true.
I did not know that. Oh my gosh.
Debate you in, bro.
But no, so that's disturbed me. Oh my gosh. And so learning that because the other thing too was what is it? Mountain lions can also sound like a woman screaming in bloody terror. Like the more I learn about animals, the more I'm like, I'm just staying inside. If I go outside, I'm strapping.
Don't fuck with the donkey. They're smart and they're badasses. I mean,
And
it's
I
like
like the kick.
here's the thing. As I said before, a good movie, whether it's a western or a horror where you can do a lot of different things with it, it's really not what it is. This really isn't a wolf movie, right? It's really about you can argue, good or bad, as far as cultural appropriation, taking over lands, all that kind of stuff, imperialism, how it's in one of the biggest cities in the world, in New York City, the problems that they've had, and all that.
City,
it's not, yeah, but it's not in your face, preachy, trying to say anything. It's just presenting something that happens as a byproduct of its time. And there's this nice sense of dread that builds up a tone that you are not in control. And it sounds stupid because you got these supposed werewolves that might be using all the tunnels that are abandoned or not abandoned underneath, traveling around stuff. And the way it's done, again, not a very expensive looking film, but you get New York back in that late 70s, early 80s glory and the smog and the way it looks, and that scene where they're climbing up on the towers talking. It's such a fucking great shot, and you're like, man, it's a really good film. Yes, An American Werewolf in London is probably the top tier of these three in terms of everything. It's a bit cute. Wolfen is not cute.
Wolfen, like you said, I love the fact that it's in a really criminal era of as far as high crime area where it takes place of New York. Like you said, I just love the setting. We talk about when we watch Chuck Norris movies, I think the 70s or 80s, just when they show you what because well, not shitholes, but I mean what a lot of
Urban
the
Decay.
I like looking at what the cities used to look like over the years.
They had more character too.
Oh my gosh, they do.
Yeah.
Not anymore. But I mean, it's like I said, it's cool to see a part of New York that no longer probably exists. It's probably been demolished, and new builds are probably there too. But like I said, it's just the whole setting. Also, the fact that these wolves are going around and kill people. As far as we know, it's because they're the white man. The white man's coming in and stealing their land, and the wolves, or it's just like, and you got Gregory Hines with a sniper rifle, and same with Albert Finney, and they're like, do you see anything? He says it, and then he's like, oh shit, here comes the wolf. It is just crazy. If you've never seen this, definitely check it out. It's a fun movie.
Yeah, and you get Gregory Hines in History of the World with an erection, and you get him in here with a sniper rifle. So, in a short amount of time in 2 films, he's giving you pretty much everything he can.
You're getting a bang, shot bang. All
It's a
right,
good film. That's why we want to
all
talk
right.
about it.
But since we brought it up, August 21st, probably the best movie as far as wolves go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen David Naughton in person a couple times.
And
it's neat. This movie is I'm sorry, RDP. I know you were starting, but I know something about this one because I've seen it. This one is you're right, Rob. It does have kind of a cutesy not undertone, not overtone. It's just there, spliced in between. And a restraining order.
it's a great
But the
film.
thing is, as Ed Brewer said, 81 was the first year of Oscar awards for makeup, and there's a good reason. This movie right here, the special effects
the
of this
Baker Award, yeah.
This movie has some of the best effects that you'll ever see.
The best
period.
part of London.
And yeah, I was going to make the joke. We're going across the pond now. But yeah, this is a good movie. I'm not going to lie. Part of it doesn't keep my interest, but most of it has just enough to keep you there. Did you know that the porno in the adult movie theater was the first thing they shot for this film? It's for this movie.
It's like, we're going to get a copy.
And if you were listening, did you hear sexy sax? Just throwing it out there.
This movie is always like, everybody talks about the transformation scene, the best on-screen transformation scene from a man to a werewolf. It's hard to watch. It is so disturbing. The guy's in pain. It's tormented. Not only that, this guy sees his friend that he murdered because he was a wolf. And it's not only that, is that this guy finds true love only to have a very only ending you can have with these movies where, well, he dies. Sorry if it's a spoiler, but I mean, like, I don't see a movie like this being this serious and be like, oh, he gets cured. No, there is no cure. The only cure is silver.
You're doomed, bro.
Yeah, it is disturbing. You bring up the porno scene, like, that was kind of weird. The only downside about this movie, other than than the story, as far as being depressing, is the fact that when they show the wolf towards the end, it's like less Godzilla at this point when it comes to this wolf. We talk about we want to see more Godzilla, but I'd rather see the wolf more in the dark. I don't want to see because the wasn't that good looking. But for the time, for 1981, they're learning, and then from this movie, we got a lot more different movies. We actually eventually got the better movie in the 90s called American Werewolf in Paris.
Well, I'm not taking that bait. I also do say that there's some great scenes in here because sometimes I prefer a less is more. That way, like I say, there was a 2014 version of Godzilla. I think that's tremendous. Although this last Godzilla -1 is phenomenal as well. But you see a lot of Godzilla, and here where you get that one guy at night in the subway tunnel by himself, and he's being chased, and he's fallen, and you see how scared he is, and then you just see the wolf crawl out just a little bit. That's enough. And even though it seems a little goofy and all that, his friend who gets chopped up and all that, it's brutal. When you see him decay the couple times he shows up and his face is getting more and more shredded, that's just disgusting. The thing with this one is that they really kind of hit you in the head with some of these things being very brutal, but I think the more effective scenes are the ones where it is more of a less is more. And we talk about the transformation scene looking great. I mentioned, I just typed in chat about how you can really feel his pain, and you don't get that in a lot. And I think that's the tremendous thing to it. So it's kind of like in the Thing that would be next year with John Carpenter. That's a great effect that everyone really likes, with the head with the antennas coming out and scurrying off. It's disgusting. It's the hands going through the chest, or just make you want to puke. It's fun. It's good stuff. It's a shock, but it's not the kind of shock like you get here when he's tripping and dreaming about getting shot and stabbed and all that stuff. That's just shock value that to me is a little unnecessary. I'm not saying, it's good or it's bad, but for me, again, what made this film was that sense of doom, dread. He's not going to make it, even though he met a woman and, they made sweet, sweet love and, he's feeling great and all these positive effects are happening to him. But then he realizes, yeah, I'm fucked. Yeah, you are, bro. It's a great movie. Great, great film.
There's only one scene in this movie that kind of threw me off. And he's at the bar. He's having a pina colada.
Well, maybe that was in his Dr. Pepper contract. I don't know.
Warren's Evan joke.
I gotcha.
Nix was like, what?
All right. Everybody's met David Naughton in chat except for me. So is there anything relevant to it other than you met him? I mean, is he a nice guy? Is he, hey, I thought you'd be bigger than that. He's got one of those things going on. I mean, what's the deal?
This is his only film that's actually like popular. I mean, he might have one more. I remember I looked him up like as far as last year when we reviewed this. But I want to say that with
David Naughton.
David Naughton.
Yeah, he doesn't have a lot. Like no. This
David
is pretty
Naughton much.
No, he's David Naughton.
I want to point out though, who was the guy in the poster? Like, who approved this? From the director of Animal House, a different kind of animal. Bro, you went from comedy to horror. What the hell?
John Landis can do that. He can do it.
I know. All right. Our final movie selection for 1981. And it was talked about last Tuesday. It is a fun movie. And I figured, why not bring it back? October 15th. The Evil Dead.
Yes. Tree rape.
Wow, he goes with the hard R right away. What the hell?
Right away. I didn't expect it when I watched it. Like,
she didn't see it coming either.
No, she didn't. No one expects
her
to be R-worded by a tree.
It is such a crazy thing to experience to watch this movie when you've seen Army of Darkness or Evil Dead 2 first, and then go back and watch. Like, wait, there's a film before that. You watch it and you're like, "Where's the comedy?"
I did it the proper way around this one, then too.
Yeah. So I watched them out of order because I saw Army of Darkness first on TV. I saw Army of Darkness. Now I remember watching, I seen like Evil Dead 2, or the one that has a skull on the. I think it's Evil Dead 2. Has a skull on the poster because I Blockbuster. Like I was like, oh, that looks disgusting. I'm not gonna watch that. So as I got older, finally I came back and watched that. I was like, oh my gosh, why did I sleep on this? This is like Texas Chainsaw Massacre with Three Stooges. It's just fun. So then I watch this movie. This movie is very serious. Kind of the same as the sequel, I guess, the loose reboot. Is 5 friends going to a cabin, and in Dearborn, Michigan, the old cassette, reel in the bottom, the basement, play it, brings forth the demons, and the Deadites, and like the only way we can stop them is by dismemberments, So you see his sister Cheryl ends up getting possessed first, but first she hears voices, she gets to go aside. Unfortunately, she just gets the molested by the trees. A bit of a kinder word.
The trees defile her in an unholy manner.
It was just like disgusting. I was like, oh, I couldn't believe this. And then they brought that back into the 2013 reboot too. I couldn't believe they really brought it back. Wow. But anyway, this movie is
those trees be wildin', man.
Pixel, being a young 20-something, you don't know the term wilding. Pretty much came down here from Florida with all the different types of spring break we would have, sir.
I don't know. Like I said, I'm talking about someone getting sexually assaulted, and he's laughing about it. Says a lot about
listen. When it was happening, it was just so ridiculous. Like it was utterly ridiculous. And it was like, what is the tree doing? Why is it doing that? It just kept getting worse, and it was like steamrolling. It's like, this isn't.
Breathe. Slow down.
Stop laughing. Stop smiling.
It's hard. It's hard. It's a tree.
I know.
It's a tree.
They say girls like wood, but not that way. Anyway, no. So Cheryl ends up getting, after that she's distraught. Then she ends up like, join us. It's like the whole thing. She gets possessed. stabs Linda, who's the girlfriend of her Bruce, is Campbell's character in here. Stabs her in the ankle with a pencil, and then you see like the lines going out, and she's infected. Like, oh shit, she's gonna get possessed next too, and like it's just like it's just the whole thing is just like the whole movie is like I was like, wow, this is like not only the filming. We talk about Michael Mann. I love Sam Raimi, how he does all the scenes in here. He's the kind of guy. He's like, if we're gonna have blood, we're gonna have tons of blood. This is a horror movie. And like I said, this is just kind of fun to watch in the sense is seeing Sam Raimi just being on such a low budget, putting out a very fantastic movie shot in Tennessee during Christmas or right around Christmas. So it was super freaking cold over there. They had snow on the ground. And I just love to read behind the scenes. He said, like I wanted my actors to suffer. If they don't look like they're suffering on set, in front of the camera, then it's fake. Because somewhere, they were taking scenes, they're freezing, they're going to the trailer, it's getting, wrapped in a blanket. We could stop claymation towards the end here when he has to like kill it's basically all his friends who end up becoming possessed. He's the last one. He's got the shotgun. Still has both hands at the end of this movie. He ends up as they're all three trying to kill him, because he basically knocks the Necronomicon into the fire. They all decompose through claymation. Stop claymation. It was really cool. So that's for special effects. But then, like I said, the whole camera scene when you see the spirits coming at you, and it's all like racing towards you, and you hear the noise, and then at the end, and you just are like, oh shit, he got at the end. Like that's how it ends. It's like the music at the end. It's just
then they get approved for number 2.
Yeah, it said this movie end up getting onto the Cannes films. I think because Sam Raimi met the guy who runs I think it was Fangoria, brought attention to it. So then this other guy who actually was running the Cannes film festivals, they just got thrown on there. Got a lot of love, respect. Stephen King even said he's like it's his top 5 film in the genre. I don't know if it still is anymore, but I think it's more than I'd say top 3 when it comes to like these kind of movies. It's the first of its kind, I'd say.
Honestly, this is like out of the movies we talked about tonight. This is number 3. First is Raiders, then Excalibur, and then The Evil Dead, because The Evil Dead is fantastic. It's fantastic. I mean, my love for Sam Raimi is in this movie. All the Raimiisms that he develops through his career start here.
You didn't see this first, did you, Pixel? Meaning out of the Evil Dead movies, however you became.
Yeah, he said he watched this one first.
Yeah, I watched it in order.
Oh.
I watched this one, then 2, and then Army of Darkness.
Okay.
Then I watched the show.
Yeah, because that was the big takeaway when we talked about this the other night. That this, if you haven't seen this first, you're gonna be like, "What the fuck?" It's totally different than the other stuff, and it's not that it's bad. And you're right,
No.
There's a lot of Raimiisms in there, but it takes out the goofy stuff for the most part, and at least to me, it has a different tone to it, and I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad that they went hard with it. Obviously, they went a different direction, which turned out to be very entertaining, and certainly. It's kept it going today because they even had the TV show on Stars. But it's a movie that for me, while I like it, it's just there. It didn't affect me the way some of the other films on our list did, or some of our runner-ups, because this is such a phenomenal year. There's so many movies that we've talked about, and we talked about Outland. Pixel, you and I talked about For Your Eyes Only. There's so many films on here that we could talk about, but we wanted to just kind of mix it up and be a little different. But the significant thing, I think, here talking about the 80s is just again, year of the Wolf movie. It's also, you can see the buddy cop kind of stuff forming as well in movies, not just Lethal Weapon. And a lot of people see all these condensed things by young people like, oh, the 80s, this is really popular, and just blah, blah, blah. And they didn't live it. They didn't go through it all. They haven't rediscovered it. So it's interesting talking about any of these films really in no particular order with the audience about what their experiences are like, because I'm telling you, seeing Raiders in a theater, standing room only, people yelling, screaming, shouting. I can't remember the last time there was a film like it that comes close, except maybe Mission Impossible, the last few of them, right? It's just an incredible experience. Evil Dead, you would go see this at a midnight movie theater or at the drive-in late at night with your significant other. It's not a fun film that way. And you would get to the point in the 80s where if you had a film like Evil Dead or anything like that, one of these B type movies, you weren't necessarily going to see it because ET would dominate in others, less screens, more movies stayed out longer and all that. So you had to find these alternative places that would show them, which meant the smaller, out of the way places. And that's the only way you could see it unless you got like into RDV's time in the 90s where you would see it on VHS or maybe late night TV, and hopefully it wasn't edited. But The Evil Dead, I think it's the best of all the films. And even though the other ones are nice and polished, this one just, it nails that kind of little different occult kind of theme to it or whatever with the book and all sorts of stuff that would become. It leans on that a little bit, but it's really Sam Raimi and his vision of how he wanted to do stuff, and it's worthy. But really, honestly, what's going to do better against Raiders? Nothing. So we had to throw up a sacrifice, and well, The Evil Dead. You just look at that fucking poster. I mean, come on. Phenomenal.
It's poster. A lot of people like to have on their wall because it's just a sick poster, man.
Are posters better back then than they were? Not to get into a big deep discussion.
I definitely are.
Now, because people always would say the trailers and the vote. There's one major voiceover guy that did it forever. The Evil Dead coming live. That just was tremendous. And I look at that poster. I don't know what the movie's about. Don't know anything about it. That poster makes me want to see it. I can't tell you a poster I've seen lately that's said, "Oh, that looks cute."
There's been a couple good ones these past couple of years, but I can't think of one off the top of my head. There was one that I specifically was like, I really want this, but I couldn't get it. So
The Meg 2?
No.
Oh, no. So the difference between posters today and posters back then is posters back then were actually hand drawn. Today they're just pumped out of a digital.
I didn't think about that. Is that right?
I'd imagine so, because there wasn't digital computers back then in 1981 that were able to do this. It had to be hand drawn, and then or painted. This looked more like painted than drawn, But
I worked at a print shop for about a year in the late '80s, and I was involved in some art stuff. And we still did a lot of stuff by hand, and it was very rare that we were making a lot of things out of, anything computers and all that, because I was transitioning the old stuff into the computer stuff and all that. And the posters, man, if you went to a place, some of the people would rent video cassettes, but then they realized there was a market for, hey, I could sell the cardboard cutout that they put out in front or the poster itself, and that became like a secondary thing. So if you went to a Spencer's or some sort of place that would sell stuff like that, you could get it where you'd get posters. But posters were a big deal, and movie posters. That's a really good comment there, RDV, about it, because I don't know how they make them today. I really don't, and it makes me think of that way with comics, but that's not my forte.
A lot of comics today
the same way I make my thumbnails. No,
comics today are a lot of them probably are drawn with a stylus on a digital thing, so they can just go back if they mess up.
Yeah,
where some of them still do with the regular hand, pencil, ink, stuff, and then but it's much faster and cheaper to do it through digital than it is to do it through old school. At least that's but I don't like that. There's only one person I know that actually still does painting stuff, and that's Lucio Perillo. He does for all his Vampirella, Red Sonja, whatever covers he does over Dynamite, and he just paints them first, and then they shrink it down, and then it's really cool. But,
a lot of old book covers too in the bookstores that were down here in the malls.
Yeah,
it was at Frank Franzetta, and another one had a bunch of fantasy stuff. It was really good too.
All right, but that is it for this week, though. Pixel and I have the run. We have a stream going over on Geeky Puppet Show. If you want to check us out over there, where we read some comic books. And if you haven't already done so, please click like, subscribe. Tell us which movie you think is better than any of the other ones. If you like the ones on our list, if you have one that wasn't on our list, let us know down below. So as always, give us your top 10 list if you have one too. So that being said,
next week's 1982. Have a good night.
Yeah.
Good night now.
Good night, guys.
This was not a Dan Curtis production.
We don't do that here.
I just did it.